Nothing says love like a homemade present, whether it's a macaroni drawing, a friendship bracelet, or a monster stitched together from various body parts. It's all good. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Oktoberfest here on Thumb Together. We're plowing right ahead with obscure horror gems that I can't get enough of. And today we're going to be talking about a movie that is just too good to be true. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Son of Frankenstein. This little gold nugget was released in 1939, right smack dab in the middle of the classic Universal horror film run. They were at the top of the game. I think Universal was making more money than any other studio by a long shot during this period, thanks mostly due to their monster classics. I mean, those movies were enormous. Everybody knows Dracula, everybody knows Frankenstein, everybody knows the Mummy, everybody knows the Wolfman and the Creature from the Black Lagoon and the Invisible Man and so on and so forth. And when you picture those monsters inside your head, you're picturing the Universal versions of those monsters. When you picture Frankenstein, you're picturing Boris Karloff in the makeup. When you picture Dracula, you're picturing Bela Lugosi in the cape saying things like, "Hello, the children of the night." It's just so classic that it really took over the zeitgeist, and now they are those characters. Of course, some things never change, and even back then in the 30s, when Universal saw just how much cash their monster films were raking in, they were quick on the uptake to start greenlighting sequels. Even as far back as 90 years ago, horror movies were getting sequels that nobody asked for. But here's the rub, boys and girls. The sequels to the original Frankenstein movie are arguably better than the original. See, Frankenstein was followed up by its sequel, Bride of Frankenstein, which a lot of people love, and that in turn was followed up in 1939 by today's movie, Son of Frankenstein. And if you ask this guy right here, yeah, parts 1 and 2, pretty decent, but Son of Frankenstein is where it gets really good. To the point where I'm going to go ahead and say it right now, Son of Frankenstein is my favorite Universal Classics horror movie. It's set many years after the events of the first two films, I think maybe around 40 years or so. The village where Frankenstein did all of his terrible deeds has been living in the fear of everything that happened, so now they're cursing the name Frankenstein. They hate what he did. He's like Bin Laden over there. They just can't stand that man is from the same village as they are. Of course, Castle Frankenstein itself is still standing in the village, and lo and behold, Frankenstein had a son, and that son inherited the castle because it's part of the family. Why not? So that son and his wife and his son come on down to the village and decide, hey, we're going to move here from the big city. We're going to live in this castle, and I'm a doctor too, so I'm going to continue my work. He thinks all is peachy, but what he doesn't realize is two things. Number one, everybody in the village hates him because his last name is Frankenstein. And number two, there may or may not still be a patchwork monster somewhere on the castle premises. The actor who plays the son of Frankenstein is Basil Rathbone, and he was well known for playing another very famous literary character, Sherlock Holmes. So they didn't get just any old actor to step into the shoes of Frankenstein Jr. They got somebody with some pedigree. And that's not the only actor with pedigree they got, because there's two wild cards, two characters who show up in this movie that make the movie so damn enjoyable to watch. The first of these characters is the local inspector, played by Lionel Atwill. This inspector is an older gentleman who has been working with the police in the town for many, many years. And as a child, he always wanted to be in the military and serve as a general and, fight for his country. He was a very patriotic guy. But when he was a little kid, the original Frankenstein monster ripped his arm out of his socket, and as a crippled person, he could not serve in the military. So he has spent the entirety of his life with a wooden arm, hating the monster for basically ruining his dream career. And as soon as a new Frankenstein moves into the village, the inspector is friendly and polite to him, but also very suspicious because he wants to ensure that nothing like the past could ever possibly happen again. On the other end of the spectrum, you have a character who wants everything from the past to happen again, and that is the character of Igor. Igor is played by Bela Lugosi, the same man who is well known for playing Dracula, and he is this weird sort of drifter character who hangs around the castle at night. Years ago, he was imprisoned for stealing dead bodies to help out the original Dr. Frankenstein. The village attempted to hang him for his crimes, but the hanging went wrong. He survived and just walked away with a broken neck. Now he just kind of drifts around aimlessly, and he has a secret. He's hiding the Frankenstein monster in a tomb underneath the old laboratory. The monster is in a coma, and Igor wants to wake it up. Why does he want to wake it up? To use it as a weapon to take revenge on all the jurors who sentenced him to death in the first place. This movie, guys, is freaking phenomenal. And even though the son of Victor Frankenstein is the main protagonist here, it's the characters of the inspector and Igor who really steal the show, because they're constantly circling him with their own intentions and their own agendas going on, and Frankenstein Jr. is constantly trying to fend them off and just do his own thing, but they're not letting him get any breathing space. To top it all off, he has his wife and son who are wondering what the heck is going on. He has the villagers who are out for his blood because his last name is Frankenstein, and he has the monster itself, the most unpredictable wild card here, because he knows he can't control that thing once it wakes up, so God only knows what kind of damage it could do in the wrong hands, namely Igor's hands. As classic and beloved as the Universal monster movies are, guys, there's just something sort of very simplistic about them, so you can enjoy them for what they are, but you're not going to get a super, really deep, heady story, at least not out of most of them. Son of Frankenstein is one of the rare exceptions. The plot is complex enough to rival even a modern movie, as opposed to the more simplistic ones Universal usually was churning out back then, and you get 4 really great character actors for the price of one movie. Even though Universal was always using the same actors to step into different roles and you got crossovers all over the place, it is very rare, even for them, that you would get something like Basil Rathbone, Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff, and Lionel Atwill together in one movie, and all of them have very, very ample screen time. That is an anomaly, folks. It really is. Son of Frankenstein is also a lot longer than most of the Universal classics. Back in the 30s, guys, when they were churning out these movies, they were very short movies. I think the original Frankenstein and the original Wolfman and like all of those OG ones, those movies clock in at like 80 minutes. They are incredibly short. Son of Frankenstein has much more of a modern running time. Son of Frankenstein clocks in at around 100 minutes. So it feels like you're just getting a much juicier film overall. There's so much more meat on this bone. This is not the only Universal Classics monster movie I'm going to be talking about this month for Oktoberfest. But like I said, it is my favorite of the bunch. If you only watch one Universal monster movie in your lifetime, make it Son of Frankenstein. There are other Frankenstein movies that followed, like Ghost of Frankenstein, House of Frankenstein, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. They're not as good as the original 3. My personal favorite of everything that followed was Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. It doesn't follow the Frankenstein story we've been telling so far. It kind of reboots it. However, it serves as the perfect sequel to the actual movie The Wolfman. The Universal movies are very muddled in the way that they follow one another. That's a whole story for a whole other video. Maybe I'll do that as a retrospective one day. But if you're ever in the mood for a good old-fashioned black and white scare and you want to see some top-tier 30s actors working together and giving it their all, Son of Frankenstein is a monstrously good film. Anyway, that's Oktoberfest for today, ladies and gents. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. My name is Andrew Fantasia. I'll see you here next time, and until then, adios.